Good morning. It is 6:55 a.m. on October 31st, 2017. I'm Christiana Ellis and I just got up. Happy Halloween! It's 5 more minutes. Uh, I have a long history in these videos of not acknowledging whatever day it is on the day that I would acknowledge. Just for example, because I do these first thing in the morning, there have been lots of times where I get up and my brain has not really processed what day it is yet. And so I get up and then I do a video about just whatever old stuff, and then I start going about it like, oh shoot, it's X day. I should have said something about that, but oh well. You know, I do have a little bit of an anecdote about Halloween, just it pertains to candy recently, because obviously all the stores are full of like Halloween candy now, and candy has been a weak spot for me all my life, but recently too. I feel like I've been having too much sugar in the form of candy by far, and it's not good for me. I mean, obviously, right? But I've recognized it, but it's been a little bit of a not a crutch, but yeah, it's been a little bit of a problem. I've been having too much candy, period. And so I bought like a couple of these big bags of variety candies, kind of like on the vague excuse to myself that they were, for trick-or-treaters, except that in the two Halloweens, actually it's just, is it two Halloweens since I've been here? I can't even remember now. Oh my God. I moved in the fall. No, I think it's one Halloween, and I moved in just after Halloween for that past year. Okay, now my brain is in a wholly different place. So, the point is, I didn't get any trick-or-treaters coming through the building. There's not many. I mean, there's a suburban style neighborhood with lots of houses and kids and stuff near-ish by, but it seems like they mostly stay on the streets with the other like suburban style houses. They don't go up into the access controlled apartment building and go door to door. So the thing is, it's like I kind of knew that it wasn't really for trick-or-treaters. And so there's this huge box of candy. And then sure enough, over the course of a couple of days, I ate a lot of it. Way more than I should have. And like, it's not good. And I didn't feel good. And it's like, that's no good. So I actually yesterday took all the rest of what I had and I took it to work and I put it in the break room. And I was astounded that it was all gone by 10 a.m. Other people were starving for it. Maybe because they had all bought Halloween candy for their own houses to actually give to trick-or-treaters, but they knew they had to save it for the actual night, and so but they'd been tempted. Now, at last! I had some good memories trick-or-treating as a kid. I lived in a neighborhood where, there's lots of houses nearby, and we could get a pretty good haul. And even there was a couple of years towards the end of before I got old enough that I stopped doing it, where friends and my brother and one of his friends. In fact, actually, I could go ahead and say it was my friend Mike, who I do Talking About Survivor and movie podcasts and stuff with. We decided to spice up our trick-or-treating act by doing a little rap about whatever our costumes were. And there was one year where, looking back on it, it's like, yeah, that was really kind of racist. We were the Rappin' Arabs. Now, to some extent, I was a kid and I lived in a very white, neighborhood, and I know that there was no malice in it, and in fact, from my limited perspective at the time, people of Arabian descent were, I mean, it's like Aladdin, right? I mean, it was like a fairy tale. I didn't know anyone, and so it was like I'm excusing my 12-year-old self for not knowing them any better at the time. But I can certainly look back now and say, ooh, sure. Well, you know what? It's like there was a part of me that when I was thinking about this, I was like, well, it was a different time. And then I'm realizing, oh, I guess what I mean by it was a different time was a time where racist things were allowed without criticism. So yeah, I think that's one of those things. That's a childhood memory that I cringe at now, and I just sort of think it's like, gosh, if there was anyone who actually was of Middle Eastern descent, um, living in one of those houses that might have been offended by that costume. I mean, it was very toothless, but still, I mean, it was like I think the gist of the rap was something like very standard hacky rap of we're the rapping Arabs and we're here to say we love crude oil in a major way, and there's something like that, and so it's just one of those things though where like I look back and I'm like, yeah. See, this is why I think that there's a lot of value in having diverse relationships, living in places where there's lots of people from other regions and getting a lot of that exposure to people of other cultures and other ethnicities and nationalities, because you start to understand more about how to be culturally sensitive in that way. Whereas, I grew up in a very monogamous sort of monogamous, that's not the right word, homogenous homogenous area, and I didn't, it wasn't bad. I'm just saying that when you live in a homogenous area, it's easy to develop these insulated worldviews where you don't see the problem with something like that. Anyway, gosh, that got a little bit heavier than I really was expecting. I didn't really even plan to get into that today, but there you have it. This is a perfect example of, well, I don't know, perfect. It's an example of recognizing a past action and saying, yeah, would not do that today. All right. Anyway, I hope you have a happy Halloween for whatever you have planned for today. I will talk to you tomorrow for 5 more minutes. I had my hand off the mouse, and I have to get to the thing where I can stop the video.